All right, you guys have questions about kickboxing, and I have some answers for you. And today we're going to be going through 10 very common requests that I see in the comment sections over and over. I will provide you with answers and hopefully explain everything that you guys are wondering about this amazing sport. So I'm going to level with everybody. It's Friday night. It's late. I was out on date night with my wife and I came back home and went, oh shoot, I don't have an episode for my YouTube channel for tomorrow. So here I am, 10 o'clock, Friday night, getting something together for you guys in fight camp. Getting all these episodes out takes a lot of energy. And if you guys are appreciating that, you enjoy the content, please give the video a like. That's all I ask. You can also comment down below because I'm going to do a follow-up episode to this one where I'm going to go through, I'm going to look at the comments and I'm going to answer all those questions that come in. But today we have 10 questions in particular that I want to focus on. And we're going to start off with one of the most common ones that I see over and over. Am I too old to compete in this sport? Now, this really depends on when you're starting or what stage you're at in your kickboxing career. But let's say you're 20 years old and you're just starting the sport and you're worried about being too old. No, absolutely not. You are not too old. If we look at UFC champions right now, pretty much all of them are in their 30s. And if you go, I want to be a high-level kickboxing champion, that gives you 10 years to build your career. I went from an amateur fighter at 20 years old starting off and then signing with my first big promotion 7 years later. Granted, I had lots of time beforehand to develop my skills, but if you are ambitious and you are about 20 years old, you give yourself 2 or 3 years to build your skill set and then 7 years to compete. By the time you're 30, you could easily be fighting for high-level promotions. Next question, and we're going to be rattling these off really quick. I don't want to spend 10 minutes on each question. Next question is Muay Thai versus kickboxing. Which one is better? This is a very in-depth question, and it really depends the way you look at it. You could ask somebody very simply, which is better, boxing or kickboxing? And I could say, well, if you put a high-level boxer against a high-level kickboxer, under kickboxing rule sets, the kickboxer will win because the boxer does not know how to deal with the low kicks and the clinch and all that. But if you put a high-level kickboxer against a Muay Thai fighter and say we're doing Muay Thai rules, the Muay Thai fighter is going to win. So if you're looking at this in terms of street self-defense or wanting to be the most dangerous fighter you can with all the weapons you can, then yes, absolutely, Muay Thai is a better sport. It has the elbows. The clinch is much more dangerous because kickboxing, it's cut off super quick. You only get about 3 to 5 seconds to work your hands in, throw a couple knees, and then it's a break. And I don't love that aspect of kickboxing, but hey, that's the rule set. We have to deal with it. But kickboxing versus Muay Thai, if you're looking at it from every skill set, no, Muay Thai is not more dangerous. Generally, kickboxers have better boxing hands because they have less to learn. So which one's better? Well, it really comes down to which sport do you like. That's the one that's right for you, and that's the one that I say you should pursue. That is why I follow kickboxing. I've followed what I absolutely love. Next question that I see all the time is, how do I quickly improve? How do I build my skill set in kickboxing so I'm not at that beginner stage for too long? Well, first of all, we've already talked about this on the channel. Get obsessed. Get obsessed about the sport. It's not a bad thing. If you train every day, you practice at home in your mind every day, you're thinking about the sport, you're watching the sport, you're doing all that, your skill set is going to skyrocket. Also, don't treat training sessions like they're just a slow, chill sort of pace. You have to go and you have to push. And if you kind of think of each training session as almost the equivalent to building up for a fight, it's going to motivate you to go that much harder. And when you push yourself to the brink of kind of breaking, like you obviously don't want to break, but if you push yourself close to it, you're going to improve that much more. So while you want to learn the technique and you want to take your time, you also really want to push yourself and get to that point of being slightly uncomfortable because you're working so hard at improving. Next question that I see very often in pretty much all fight sports is, what is the best attack? This is something beginners ask very often. What's going to score knockdowns super easy? Well, it's not as simple as me just showing you one technique and going, left hook is my favorite, so you should practice it because it's going to get you knockdowns like it's got me knockdowns. No, each person is individual and you have to learn what you like the best. But for kickboxing, one of the things that we should be focused on, all fighters should be focused on, is getting very good at the roundhouse kicks. That is one thing. I think if you have the roundhouse kicks and you can develop those at a high skill set where you can go head, body, and down to the legs, without round kicks, I feel like every fighter is going to dramatically decrease their skill set and their danger. So focus on the round kicks. And then if you can tie in the boxing after, that already makes you a dangerous fighter just with those two things to your name. The next question, which kind of ties into is Muay Thai better than kickboxing, is should I learn to clench? Because as I already mentioned, in kickboxing, there is restricted clench. Now, when I used to do it, when I was fighting for these belts, we usually had a 3 to 5 second clench rule. But now, the sport has got a little more watered down in my opinion, and it's to the point where sometimes clench is, you can only grab with one hand. You can't even double clench. And you can't clench and knee at the same time. So some people might be going, well, is it even worth me learning the clench? I would say yes, absolutely. Because when you get tight, even if you're not throwing people or off balancing them in the same way you will in Muay Thai, having a comfort level on the inside allows you to relax, while your unexperienced partner or opponent in the clinch zone is going to fatigue themselves, even if it's just a little shaking them around, a little off balance where you don't even throw them, but you just off balance them. Having that skill set can only be good for you. So absolutely, yes, work the clinch, even if you're only a kickboxer and you're not worried about ever competing in Muay Thai. Question number 6, what is the best way to improve my cardio? Well, the first thing you can do, as we kind of already mentioned, is when you go in for a training session, don't go 50%, don't go 60%, give it your all. And if you go in and you're given like, well, maybe not your all, but like 90, 95%, if you keep doing that time and time again, your cardio is going to skyrocket. In addition, you can put in running time, road work. When you do your road work, don't worry about long distance. That's not the way the fight is, and that's not the way the kickboxing class is. It's not non-stop for an hour. It's go shadow box for 3 minutes, go do bag work for 3 minutes, pad work for 3 minutes, and there's always breaks in between. So for running, maybe 400-meter sprints. Run 400 meters, take a minute off. Run 400 meters, take a minute off. Or soccer field sprints, which I've talked to you before about. Sprint the length of the soccer field, jog the width. Sprint the length, jog the width. Do that 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times until you feel your heart rate just pumping, and you have to stop because your legs are burning and your heart feels like it's going to give out on you. Another question that comes from beginners all the time is, when I throw my hook, should my thumb be up or down, or even facing towards me? What direction should the thumb be? This again is for me all personal preference. I like this direction most of the time because it keeps my wrist safe and I don't accumulate a lot of damage. If I turn my hand over, I find that it starts to hurt my wrist a lot. But I have scored knockdowns in fights with my hand or my thumb facing towards myself, so any way is fine as long as it works for you. Next question is very common in kickboxing, and it is about defense. The question being, should I focus on slipping or should I focus on guarding up and making a shell? And I'm going to tell you right now, like I'll tell everybody when people ask me questions, there are multiple ways to do things. There's no exact right or wrong most of the time. Slipping. We'll see somebody like Adesanya, Israel Adesanya, now UFC champion, who used to be a high-level kickboxer. He was very evasive, and it worked for him. He very rarely guarded up. And that was because he was a longer fighter who had exceptional eyesight and was able to utilize that head movement because of those assets he had. If you are a shorter fighter and you don't want to be trying to bob and weave, maybe just putting your hands tight to your head and staying in that pocket and using that sort of Dutch style guard is going to be more beneficial for you. I prefer tight just because my head movement is not as slick when I'm starting to worry about head kicks. If I go to boxing, I'll drop my hand and I'll use a shoulder roll and just parry and slip. But I don't like doing that for kickboxing. So look at what your strengths are. If you feel like every time you slip you're getting tagged, that's probably not for you. If you feel like when you shell up, you're like a punching bag and you don't like the feeling, then maybe you want to go to head movement and that'll be your form of defense. It's all very personal. The next question I get very often is on body shots and people going, why are my body shots not landing? Now I could do a full episode on this, but to break it down very quickly, to give you a summarized opinion here, most people don't land their body shots because they're so worried about getting hit to the head, because the first time they went to throw a body shot they got tagged, that they make some very common errors. One of the first ones being they either lean back or drop their weight way off to the side and try and throw the punch to get their head out of counter range. But as soon as they do that, they suck away from their body punch power. And if you're not hitting somebody and hurting them, they don't respect you. And then if they don't respect you, they're not worried about taking the shot and they'll just batter you back with that counter. So you need to make sure you develop good power, so that when somebody gets hit once, they go, oh, I don't want to get hit again. And instead of focusing on countering, they're more worried about blocking. And then from there, you can develop your body shots and your confidence in those shots. So work the power first. And then after you've developed good power, you can start worrying about all the other things that follow. And the final question for today, and remember, throw your comments down below for the next video like this where I will just run through questions you guys have so I can try and keep up with all the awesome comments and requests that you guys are giving me. I wish I could do a video every hour to get through all of them, but it's just not realistic. So this is a great structure for these requests. I hope you guys enjoy them. Remember, give the video a like if you are. The last one we're going to talk about today is how to block the uppercut. People are very confident usually blocking hooks. Get your hand up in the way. Straight punch comes, parry, head movement, shell. But when the uppercut comes, for some reason, people get very thrown off by it, and you eat an uppercut or two, and yeah, you definitely want to know how to block this. The way that I teach people to block the uppercut, if you're not going to work head movement, because if so, you see the uppercut come, and you can just lean back, that's very often enough. But the next thing that you can do, which is very important, is to get the elbow across. So now basically when the uppercut comes, the elbow is directly in the way. This one here is very good because we're not going two hands and exposing our head. We're still keeping our glove right to the temple. So we're still protected for the hook, but we just draw across. I might even rotate my body a little bit so that I have a more powerful counter. I block the uppercut and then I can counter out with full power because of that rotation and that preload of that shoulder. But elbows across is a very easy way. If you can't get one elbow across, you can also just close up in turtle shell and just have the uppercut come and glance off the forearms. Those are my favorite ways to deal with blocking the uppercut at a beginner intermediate level. And that is all from me tonight, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I need to call it because I need to go and get some food, shower up, and get ready for bed so I have some energy for training tomorrow. Again, if you guys enjoyed this episode, give it a like. If you have not already, join the channel, get subscribed. Train hard, guys. I'll see you back here soon for another video.